Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you are new, then a big huge welcome to you. Now today is a last minute video because something came up, and if you have been following me on social media, then you'll probably know what's going on. But I thought that I would dive into the subject today, and we'll explain for those who don't know. But the reason why I said we is because we have a wonderful guest with us. We've got Stephanie. Stephanie, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing? Is it a bit warm where you are?
It is, but thankfully we have air conditioning, unlike y'all in the UK.
Oh, you're so lucky, really. I'm a bit jealous. Oh, I mean that's just the thing, really. You get very hot and then it just becomes cold, really. Mother Nature just like has a mind of its own, really, sometimes. Oh, and yeah, so Stephanie has joined with us because she's done a reel on the subject as well on Instagram, which I saw, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I said to Stephanie before we started filming, I will let her take the lead because she has a lot more to say compared to what I do. But basically, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to what's going on, because if you've seen the hashtag Stop the Shock, then it's a hashtag that's going around not just on social media, but within the autism community. And it has been going on for a while, but it has popped up again recently because there's something that everyone in the autism community is talking about. And I think we'll probably leave that over to Stephanie to talk a bit more about it. So Stephanie, over to you.
Oh, well, thank you. So Stop the Shock currently, which I saw there was an overlap with like something to do with like shock collars and Petco, but that's like from years ago, so don't get confused. We are we are talking about human beings, actually. So the Stop the Shock campaign is regarding a recent overturn of a ruling from the FDA regarding using painful electric skin shocks on autistic people and otherwise disabled individuals in a place in Canton, Massachusetts, in the United States. It's called the Judge Rotenberg Center, and they've been known to do these sorts of things for quite a while. And thankfully, it seemed at least, we were able to get the FDA to ban the particular device they use to do what they're doing. But the abbreviation for Judge Rotenberg Center that I might use often is JRC. So if anybody gets confused. So the JRC actually brought a lawsuit against them, and the DC court overturned the FDA's decision because the FDA did not have the authority to ban it specifically for behavior modification. So I'm trying to like give the general information and go back here for a minute. So basically what they do is a form of ABA there, applied behavior analysis. It's something that is actually quite common in the US versus I think other countries. Y'all aren't always welcoming to it, which I prefer, but so basically what they do is they have their students wearing these packs. It's literally like strapped to them 24/7 when they're in the shower, when they're going to sleep, when they're not, all the time. These are strapped to them, and they are electric shock devices. And through ABA, the idea is to make them stop doing the thing that they're not supposed to do. So, for example, one of my friends, she was actually one of the students at JRC, and I feel like it's probably okay to mention her because she has been speaking about her experience. It's Jennifer Masumba, and she was sharing about how things like fiddling her fingers, they would say something like, Jen, no manipulating objects with your fingers. And then if she couldn't stop, they would say, Jen, no ignoring instructions. And then they would shock her. And these shocks aren't, some people tried to say, especially the people at JRC, when basically this got media coverage for in 2012 for an incident that happened, and they try to say, oh, it's just a pinch. However, the show that they were on, they're like, well, actually, this is multiple times more output wise than a taser on the market. So it's an absolute lie that it's just a little pinch. It's straight up more than a taser, electric shock. And the reason that they were even in the news at that time in 2012 was because there was a video released of an individual who was strapped down to a board for 7 hours and shocked over 30 times. And he was sent to the hospital because of it. And this is not an abnormal thing for that place. So it's very, it's a very heavy topic because it is quite frankly torture. According to an expert for the UN on torture, when interviewed, asked about what's going on there, whether that would constitute as torture, he said, without a doubt, without question, it would. The interviewer asked, would a convicted terrorist be allowed to be treated this way? And he said, absolutely not. So for me, it's very frustrating that this has ever gone on, let alone been allowed to continue even past 2012 when there was media coverage. A very heartbreaking video is available from their internal cameras. So right now, the Stop the Shock campaign is a call to action to urge the FDA to completely ban this device because they didn't have the authority to ban it for behavior modification specifically, but they do have the authority to ban it completely. There is no other purpose to this device other than to cause pain. Something to make clear is that this isn't the same as the kind of therapy that they might do for the brain, which uses electric shocks, but that person would be not conscious and they wouldn't feel pain. That's a whole different thing. This is not the same thing. These devices have never actually been approved for use by the FDA in the first place. And there are different levels from my understanding, the worst one being the GED4. And so the push is either to get the FDA to completely ban the device, or to also, there's a legislation going through right now it has been introduced to Congress called CASA, or Keeping All Students Safe Act. And that act is for banning restraint and seclusion in schools that receive federal funding, which I'm very for. What they're wanting to do is actually have them amend it to include banning aversives of this nature and then pass the whole bill. So those are two of the major things that they're pushing for on a legal level. And there are also petitions for these items as well as for closing the JRC. One of the most disturbing things is that they're public taxpayers. They partially fund the JRC. So these people are unknowingly helping fund torturing autistic people. So yeah, it's a heavy topic, but something I believe is very important. So.
Oh yeah, I definitely couldn't agree more, really. And then just jumping on from that, I found that with the JRC, they are supported through many charities. And as if you have been following my channel, then you know that I've mentioned a few times Autism Speaks. They're one of the charities, as an example, that support the JRC. And although I want to say shocking, I'm not surprised. Because I know they do like terrible things, and I mean this is kind of like really frustrating, and I can definitely see why it's been going on. And I mean, to be honest though, and even if you said Stephanie, it's with your friend's experience, it happened in 2012. It's been going on for like longer than that, like a longer period. And jumping on through that, because this is something that what was this? Because it's jumped onto a recent event that everyone's talking about, which happened on the 6th of July. So at the time of this recording, it was 2 weeks ago. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, the federal court, I think, the legal court, has decided to overturn the case, meaning that the JRC can still continue doing what they're doing.
Yes. So with their original ruling, they had put like a stay on it. So they had a certain amount of time to take them off of the shock device, because somehow they're trying to justify that it was necessary. So they're trying to gradually take them off of it, which is ridiculous, but whatever. And then COVID happened. And because COVID happened, they got a longer stay on it because they didn't want to have to change things. And then by the time all of that happened, JRC managed to bring the lawsuit, and the DC court did overturn the FDA's decision. So yes, now they can continue legally without any real restriction to continue to use that device and do what they've been doing.
Yeah, that's really horrible, really. That's like, I mean, no words can actually say this, because you tend to think that nothing could happen like this, and people just think it's the 21st century, it's happened, but we're still living in the dark ages, so let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. And like you had mentioned, like Autism Speaks, which I mean, they've been, I'm not saying they do the best, but they seemed to have been like trying to do a little better. And the idea that they wouldn't openly condemn this, what really frustrates me as well is ABAI, which is the Association of Behavioral Analysts International. They not only don't condemn what they're doing at JRC, but in factually, I know definitely 2019, possibly even more recently. 2019, they allowed the JRC to have a place in their conference to convince other behavior analysts that using shock aversives was something they should also do. They titled it that they were fighting for the right to effective therapy, and that it was just so horrible that people were against doing this to people.
Oh, I mean, that does, it definitely says a few words, and it definitely says something, really. And I think that it has, like, I don't know how to like put this, but from what you said, Stephanie, it's kind of like a little bit of a hiccup here and there, really, but there's no U-turn in this.
Yeah, so basically, unless we get lawmakers into action here, not really. Currently, there is no recourse for the people who are being subjected to this treatment. So basically, the best thing that we can do is in the US contact lawmakers worldwide, being able to like sign petitions and message organizations, maybe encourage Autism Speaks to maybe do a turnabout, for example, and actually condemn this type of behavior.
Oh no, I definitely couldn't agree. And it was like I'd done, like, I never told this to anybody, but back in April, I had the jumping to on chance about emailing Autism Speaks, and when they did the Jimmy Kendall thing. But in case you didn't know, back in April earlier this year, there was a host called Jimmy Kendall who did a live stream to raise money for autism with a celebrity, a YouTube celebrity called Mark Rober, who has a son who has autism. And there was a lot of controversy about it, really, because another charity called Next for Autism, they support things like what the JRC is doing. And then what was the other centre's name? It's one where they actually where they actually what's the words to put this, expecting mothers to come in and saying, do you think my child has autism? And then they do like a little scan and test and said, yeah, and then just say the only way to do it is to terminate your baby.
Oh my gosh.
But I can't remember what it's called, really, but
So
it's CD something, I think.
So I didn't quite hear much about that one in particular. So I had gone over the situation with Next for Autism. And so, yeah, they do support ABA. I would hope they wouldn't, because they did put a statement out eventually that they didn't support a lot of the disgusting things that have been associated with ABA's founding. So I would hope, and I haven't really checked with them, I would hope that they would at least condemn, at the very least, the measures that are going on at JRC. But they are associated with, oh goodness, the Center for the Developing Brain. I think that's what you were talking about.
Yes, that's it. That's the one. And I know that they supported the JRC as well. That's Next for Autism, because
Okay.
Autism Speaks, it has a connection with other charities. I don't know how many, but I believe it was somewhere between 20 and 30, because there's a whole like network that they support really. And when I emailed Next for Autism about it and Autism Speaks, I didn't get a reply for a long time. And I got 2 emails back. I won't say what they are because it is like, it was really long, but basically it turns out I got nowhere with this and I haven't got a proper answer. But like you said before, Stephanie, it could happen, like, and because there could be a U-turn in all of this, and who knows really. We just have to keep fighting and just have to get our voices heard really, whether charities might listen to us or not in the US, and well, probably not, but just all over the world as well. If that makes sense.
Well, like, I think the good thing about this too is the good thing, well, the fact that people are paying attention, I guess, is what I mean, because even with the whole situation for Next for Autism, being able to see an organization actually put out a statement responding is pretty new to what we've seen here in the US, because Autism Speaks normally just ignores everyone when they're making noise, basically. So yeah, absolutely, making noise about the situation puts pressure not only on JRC, which I don't think they care. I have a very, very low opinion of JRC, and it's, anyway. But other people, other organizations, it does put pressure on them to not want to associate, because when you have someone in the UN who's an expert on torture saying that what is happening here is actually torture, it's really hard to try to say, well, like, oh, well, it makes them do what we want. Well, of course someone's going to do what you want when you torture them. Like, that that doesn't make it okay. So yeah, making noise and not being quiet, make sure that people have to pay attention.
Yeah, that's definitely it really. And it's hard really to look at like 2 bits of the angle really, because I know that there's a lot of controversy on social media about it, thinking that way is the right way to do it. But then with the kicking of the devil's advocate, it's so hard to put it into question really. I don't know how to put this really, because there's something in there somewhere, because you just have to look at the for and against of the sort of thing. I know I'm not really making any sense because I'm not trying to not let the heat get into me, but I think I don't know how to put this. It's kind of like a tough challenge really, and especially if you want to find answers rather than questions, would that make a difference?
Right. And I think, like, if I'm following you, so sorry if I'm not quite understanding, but I think a lot of people's arguments, and the reason really JRC's been able to do what they're doing, is parent testimony saying, like, this is the only thing that works. And this is a lot of times what we hear, right? Like with ABA here in the US, like, this is the only thing that works for my child. But there are alternatives that are proven to help with, because the major thing that their argument is self-injurious behavior. And so they're saying, like, well, you don't want that person to hurt themselves, and if you take away our right to shock them or to use aversives, they're going to hurt themselves. And this has been a long time issue, and this is also similar to the fight for the banning of seclusion and restraint in these schools. Again, like always, there's no other option. The problem is there is another option. There are several methods that have been proven to work and be more effective to help with self-injurious behaviors, meltdowns, etc., that traditionally people would just put them in restraints or send them to a seclusion room, for example. And also, I feel like JRC's credibility is just in the toilet, in my opinion, because when you look at someone like my friend Jen, and she's been very outspoken in the past about her experiences there, they would try to paint her as someone who is just out of control, who's just like always hurting herself or always, being violent, etc., or just you just can't get through to her. But she's getting shocked for tensing her muscles or for crying or for messing with something with her fingers. She's an articulate person. She's not, non-speaking, which non-speakers get spoken over, of course, a lot because they can't communicate and no one's given them the opportunity to. So, of course, other people speak for them in that case. But in her case, she can speak and she can tell you that this is not okay. And they would still try to say that that was the only option. That's not the only option, and it's absolutely bogus. These people are straight up lying, and it's infuriating and insulting to the intelligence of every single person that they make that excuse to. But for those who are concerned, like, yes, there are people who are self-injurious, but there are proven alternatives that are much better that don't involve harming the person to make them stop.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's kind of like it's just like people just don't really care about like sort of things, and it's very hard just to fight for what you think is right, really. And if there are people who don't care, then it's going to make the situation a bit harder. And that's what it has been for the past few years, maybe even like a century or something, or it could be more than that, really, because it has been known to have been going on for a long time, really, before Autism Speaks was founded anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it is time for a change, really, I think, and the sooner the better, really.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely been a heavy topic there. But so I think we'll probably leave the video on a positive note. What do you think you would like to see in a few years' time after all of this has happened?
Well, in a magical, wonderful world, I would like to see, obviously, places like this, and this place specifically, shut down, the use of aversives being banned, and finding better ways to help people to communicate. I do believe that there is a rise in, I guess, publicizing or making people more aware of alternatives that are both effective and humane, and that allow the person their own personhood. We're seeing a lot more the rise of AEC use for non-speakers, and that takes a lot of the frustration away. When you can't communicate in any other way, you might, act out in certain ways that can be destructive. So being able to see more access to communication, more empathy, really, from people who work with autistic people. Yeah, that in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then also just to have more understanding with autism, really. And I think in the US alone, even though it's improving quite a lot, because I know that every time I read a news article about it, whether it's talking about autism in the UK or the US, there is more understanding of it. But then voices shouldn't be silent. And I think there is going to be an ongoing battle. I definitely think that it's the most likely thing to happen. But I think at the end of the day, when the day comes, really, for the autism community to have justice, I'm gonna actually say this. I'm gonna open a bottle of champagne. I seriously am. But yeah, it has been a really crazy journey. And then I think that's what probably all I could say for really. So yeah, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on, and especially at last minute as well, because
Thank you so much for having me.
oh, you're welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. And I know that you've been campaigning a lot about it recently. So campaign on, really. And I wish you all the best of luck for all of this as well. And if you want to check out Stephanie's channel, I will leave a link in the cards and in the description box down below. Go follow her. She's amazing. And then also I will leave a link to her Instagram reel in the description box down below as well. Go check it out too. And yeah, definitely see what you think, and let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this, and what do you think needs to change, and do you think that it is going to be possible if we continue to fight? Again, let me know in the comments. Let's get talking about it. But yeah, definitely. And until then, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And as always remember to keep on dreaming and never stop believing. Stay safe, stay well, and fight for what you believe in. And I'll see you very soon. Bye. Hello there. Quick edit. Stephanie sent me something while I was editing, and she actually sent me something that was to do with Autism Speaks, because Autism Speaks have recently made a public statement on their website that was a few days after the federal court made its decision. But basically they've written down some information that me and Stephanie were referring to. The ban on electrical stimulation devices, or ESDs, to treat aggressive or harming behaviours, typically in children and adults severely affected by developmental disorders, including autism, has been in place since March 2020. The US Court of Appeals for DC Circuit overturned the ban on July 6, saying the FDA did not have the authority to regulate medical practice. Autism Speaks continues to support the ban on the use of ESDs and aversion therapy, and affirms its 2016 statement when the ban was first proposed by the FDA. A federal court this week overturned by an FDA ban on electric shock devices used as a form of aversion therapy on children and adults with self-harming and aggressive behaviours. Autism Speaks opposes the use of these electrical stimulation devices and continues to support the ban on their use. Painful adverse conditioning has no place in the treatment of autism or in any developmental disorder. We urge the FDA to pursue available legal options to protect people with disabilities from this practice. Virtually all autism centres and mental health hospitals in the United States have disavowed adverse shock therapy. However, the practice remains legal in the US. The one educational centre for children with severe developmental disabilities in Massachusetts that manufactures and uses the devices challenged the ban in court, leading to this week's decision. In its original ban on ESDs, the FDA noted that they present risks of psychological harm, including depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, fear, panic, and other negative outcomes. They also pose physical risks of pain and damaged tissues to the skin. What do you think of Autism Speaks' statement?